Psycho is a 1960 American psychological horror film directed and produced by Alfred Hitchcock and written by Joseph Stefano. It stars Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, John Gavin, Vera Miles, and Martin Balsam, and was based on the 1959 novel of the same name by Robert Bloch. The film centers on an encounter between a secretary, Marion Crane, who ends up at a secluded motel after stealing money from her employer, and the motel's owner-manager, Norman Bates, and its aftermath.
Psycho was seen as a departure from Hitchcock's previous film, North by Northwest, having been filmed on a low budget in black and white and by a television crew. The film initially received mixed reviews, but outstanding box office returns prompted reconsideration, which led to overwhelming critical acclaim and 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Supporting Actress for Leia and Best Director for Hitchcock. Psycho is now considered one of Hitchcock's best films and praised as a major work of cinematic art by international film critics and scholars. Often ranked among the greatest films of all time, it set a new level of acceptability for violence, deviant behavior, and sexuality in American films, and is widely considered to be the earliest example of the slasher film genre.
Sir Alfred Joseph Hitchcock was an English film director and producer, widely regarded as one of the most influential filmmakers in the history of cinema. Known as the master of suspense, he directed over 50 feature films in a career spanning 6 decades, becoming as well known as any of his actors thanks to his many interviews, his cameo roles in most of his films, and his hosting of Alfred Hitchcock Presents from 1955 to 1965.
Born on the outskirts of London, Hitchcock entered the film industry in 1919 as a title card designer after training as a technical clerk and copywriter for Telegraph Cable Company. He made his directorial debut with Pleasure Garden in 1925. His first successful film, The Lodger, a story on the London fog, 1927, helped to shape the thriller genre, while his 1929 film Blackmail was the first British talkie. 2 of his 1930 thrillers, The 39 Steps, 1935, and The Lady Vanishes, 1938, are ranked amongst the greatest British films of the 20th century.
By 1939, Hitchcock was a filmmaker of international importance, and film producer David O. Selznick persuaded him to move to Hollywood. A string of successful films followed, including Rebecca in 1940, Foreign Correspondent in 1940 as well, Shadow of Doubt in 1943, and The Paradigm Case in 1947. Rebecca was nominated for 11 Oscars and won the Academy Award for Best Picture. His 53 films have grossed over 223 million worldwide and garnered a total of 46 Oscar nominations and 6 wins.
Oh, that's a lot. The Hitchcockian style includes the use of camera movement to mimic a person's gaze, thereby turning viewers into voyeurs, and framing shots to maximize anxiety and fear. The film critic Robin Wood wrote that the meaning of a Hitchcock film is there is the method and the progression from shot to shot. A Hitchcock film is an organism, with the whole implied in every detail and every detail related to the whole. By 1960, Hitchcock had directed 4 films often ranked amongst the greatest of all time: Rear Window, 1954, Vertigo, 1958, North by Northwest, 1959, and Psycho, 1960. In 2012, Vertigo replaced Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, 1941, as the British Film Institute's greatest film ever made. By 2016, 7 of his films had been selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry, including his personal favorite, Shadow of a Doubt, 1943. He received the AFI Life Achievement Award in 1979 and was knighted in December that year, 4 months before he died.
After Hitchcock's death in 1980, Universal Studios began producing follow-ups, 3 sequels, a remake of a made-for-television spin-off, and a prequel television series set in the 2010s. In 1992, the Library of Congress deemed the film culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and selected it for the preservation by the National Film Registry.
You're very kind.
It's all for you. I'm not hungry. Please, go ahead. You eat like a bird.
You know, of course.
Not really. I hear that expression that one eats like a bird is really a falsity. I mean a falsity, because birds eat a tremendous lot. Oh, I don't know anything about birds. My hobby is stuffing things, taxidermy, and I guess I'd just rather stuff birds because, well, I hate the look of beasts when they're stuffed. Foxes and chimps and all. And some people even stuff dogs and cats. I can't. I think birds look well stuffed because they're rather passive to begin with. Most of them.
It's a strange hobby. I'm curious. I mean,
Uncommon too.
I imagine so.
It's not as expensive as you'd think. Cheap, really. Needles, thread, sawdust. Chemicals are the only thing that really cost anything.
A man should have a hobby.
That's more than a hobby, sometimes. A hobby is supposed to pass the time, not consume it.
Is your time so empty?
Oh no, I run the office, I tend the cabins and grounds, do little chores for mother, the ones she allows I might be capable of doing.
Do you go out with friends?
Friends? Who needs friends? The boy's best friend is his mother. You've never had an empty moment in your whole life, have you?
Only my share.
Where are you going? I don't mean to pry, I'm just curious.
I'm looking for my own private island.
What are you running away from?
Why do you ask that?
No, sorry. People never run away from anything. Rain didn't last very long. You know what I think? I think we're all in our own private traps, clamped in them, and none of us can ever climb out. We scratch and claw, but only at the air and at each other. And for all of it, we never budge an inch.
I mean, sometimes we deliberately step into those traps.
I was born in mine. I don't mind it anymore.
You should mind it.
I do. I say I don't, but I do.
If anyone ever spoke to me the way I heard, the way she spoke to you, I don't think I could ever laugh again.
Sometimes when she talks that way to me, I like to curse her out and leave her forever. Or at least to fire her. But I couldn't. She's ill.
She sounded strong to me.
I mean, ill. She had to raise me all by herself after my dad died. I was only 5. It must have been a strain. Oh, she didn't have to go to work or anything. My dad left us with a little something. Anyway, a few years ago, Mother met a man. He talked her into building this motel. Could have talked her into anything, and when? Well, it was just too much for her when he died too. The way he died. Sorry, it's nothing to talk about when you're eating. Anyways, it was too much of a loss for my mother, and she had nothing left. So.
I mean, except you.
Son is a poor substitute for a lover.
Why don't you go away?
To a private island like you?
No, not like me.
It's too late for me. Besides, who'd look after her? She'd be alone up there, and the fire would go out, damp and cold like a grave. When you love somebody, you don't do that to them, even if you hate them. I don't hate her. I hate what she's become. I hate the illness.
I mean, wouldn't it be better to just like put her in some place?
An institution? A madhouse? People always call a madhouse some place. Put her in some place.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound uncaring.
What do you mean, caring? Have you ever seen one of those places? Ever seen the inside? Laughing, tears, and cruel eyes studying you? My mother there? Why? Has she harmed you? She's as harmless as one of these birds.
I'm sorry, I only felt it seemed like she was harming you. I meant...
Well? You meant well? People always mean well. They cluck their thick tongues and shake their heads and suggest so very delicately that... Suggested it myself. But I hate to think of such a thing. She needs me. And it isn't like as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. It's just that sometimes she goes a little mad. You'll go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
Yes, and just one time can be enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman.
Norman.
You're not going to your room already, are you?
I mean, I'm very tired and I'll have a long drive tomorrow back to Phoenix.
Phoenix?
Yeah, I stepped into a private trap back there, and I want to go back and just try to pull myself out before it's too late for me to.